In the P&L case we did earlier, we came up with a nicely formatted P&L. Now that we know how to create charts in Excel, it would be great to apply these skills and work on some good-looking and effective charts. Using them is a great way to present your work and convey various messages to decision makers. In addition to that, we will focus on some techniques which will render the formatting of your charts professional and appealing. Thank you for watching this financial modeling lesson. In this extract, we will create a stacked column chart showing the trend of revenues and their breakdown in each of the years under consideration. In the sheet Column Stacked Chart, we will have a table with items linked to the P&L sheet we created earlier. These are the various categories of revenue Generico has: net sales, other revenues, and recharges. An additional element we have here is the gross margin percentage for 3 years. Very often, it is interesting to combine the analysis of revenue development with that of margins, as there is a direct connection between the two. Let's select the table and go to Insert. Choose Column among various chart types and select Stacked Column. Okay, see how different this chart is from the one on the right? We'll modify it step by step in order to obtain the same chart. First of all, we have to invert rows and columns, as we want to observe the development of revenues per each year. Then, let's do some formatting. I prefer to have my charts in Arial. My favorite font size is 8. Don't worry, it isn't too small. Okay, let's do another right-click, but this time select Format Chart Area. Here, I'd like to remove the fill of the chart and its borderline. Click No for both. Let's adjust the size of the chart a bit, as we want to have a quarter-page chart. This is an approximation, of course. Let's change the colors of the chart a little bit. Usually, I prefer changing the default colors of Excel charts. In some cases, this is done with the colors of the company we are analyzing in mind, or with colors corresponding to a particular product. It really depends on the situation. However, one thing we can agree on is that default Excel colors are not great. Alright, I'll assign the following colors to each of the time series. See how by left-clicking on just one of them, the whole time series is selected, and this makes it easier for corrections and modifications. Net sales will be in dark blue. Other revenues will be in a lighter blue. For recharges, we can have a distinctive color. Now, let's make the columns of our chart a bit bigger. In order to do this, I'll right-click on one of the columns and select Format Data Series. Once I am in the Format Data Series menu, I'll reduce the size of the gap width from 150% to 50%. Okay, what still needs to be done? We have to deal with the gross margin percentage, which is represented as a line in the chart on the right. That's why I'll select the data series of the gross margin percentage and select again the Format Data Series menu. Once we are inside the menu, we have to click on Secondary Access. This will add a secondary access to our chart, but does not fix the fact that we would like to see this parameter as a line. In order to do that, I'll right-click on the time series and select Change Series Chart Type, where we can choose Line Chart. An additional detail will be to smooth the line, representing gross margin percentage. This can be done by selecting the line, right-clicking on it, and picking the Format Data Series menu. where we can find the Line Style menu, in which we can click on Smoothed Line. Let's opt for positioning the labels on the right-hand side of the chart. The last detail that we're missing is to add data labels to the value of our chart, which is easily done by right-clicking on a series and selecting Add Data Labels. The default labels are in black, but probably the better option is to have them in white and in bold. Now the two charts are the same. You can see how many manipulations are necessary in order to render a chart professional and good-looking. I promise you that the extra effort is worth it, because respecting many of these little details shows a lot about your precision and dedication. In this tutorial, we'll learn how to create a donut chart. Let's go to the sheet Donut Chart. Here we have the same table as the one we saw in our previous sheet. Let's suppose that we would like to give a good graphical representation of the breakdown of total revenues within a single financial period, say FY18. The donut chart is excellent for such purposes. I'll select the figures of the three revenue components for FY18. Go to Insert, where we have pie and donut charts, and here we can select Donut Chart. Let's format it in a similar way as the previous chart, and select Arial as font, and 8 as font size. The next step will be to right-click on the chart and select Format Chart Area, where we'll remove the fill and border color of the chart. Better. Let's reduce its size to quarter page by grabbing the corner and adjusting until we have an approximation of the right proportions. Right now, we don't have the labels for the three categories of revenues. Through a right-click on the chart, we can choose Select Data, where we can assign the three horizontal axis labels in the following way. Let's opt for positioning the labels on the right-hand side of the chart. Excellent! To add a chart title, we have to go to the Chart Tools menu. Once we click on the chart, it appears on the menu bar. We have to click on Chart Title and select the type of title we need. In our case, I'll pick a title which is above the chart. Let's adjust its size, font, and position. Arial. Font size 9. The title will be in bold, and I'd like to position it to the left. Let's name the chart the same as the one on the right. Breakdown of revenues in FY18. I'll modify the colors of our chart to improve its appearance. Again, we'll have dark blue, lighter blue, and gray. Much better. We need to make our donut chart a bit fatter, don't you think? It's too slim at the moment. I'll select the donut chart, right-click on it, and then access the Format Data Series menu. Here we can opt for a donut hole size of 50%. Very well. Let's add data labels, the same as we did for the chart that we saw before. Right-clicking on one of the chart's series and clicking Add Data Labels. As usual, I'll format them in white and we'll put them in bold. Have you noticed how there are some steps I always repeat when formatting each chart? I believe that you will develop your own steps as you find your preferred way of doing things. Nurturing such routines is good, as they allow you to be fast and really consistent. Now, the only difference between the two charts is the box in the middle, showing the total amount of the item, which is broken down into percentages. Let's add such a box to our new chart. I'll go to Insert, select text box, and type within the text box the total amount of the item. 26.3 million in this case. We should have it in Arial as well. I'll adjust the size of the box, and once we are ready, we can include it in our chart. It is very important to follow the following procedure precisely. Cut the text box, select the chart, and paste the text box within it. Here, I am doing it with Ctrl and V. This mechanism attaches the text box to the chart. If I change the chart's position within the sheet, we can see that the text box changes its position together with the chart. This is how we create a donut chart. Thanks for watching. Our next task is to create a chart which combines area and line elements. In the sheet, Area and Line Chart, we have a table which contains two parameters, revenues and gross margin percentage. Our final output will be the chart on the right side of the sheet. Let's select the data and go to Insert. Select Area Charts and pick a two-dimensional area chart. We can do the usual formatting steps that we also saw for the previous two charts. Select the chart, choose Arial as a font, and 8 as a font size. Go to Format Chart Area and remove the fill and the border color of the chart. Perfect. Now let's format its grid lines as well. I'll select one of the grid lines, right-click on it, and pick Format Grid Lines, where I'll pick Solid Line and choose gray as its color. An additional detail is that I'd like the grid lines to be 75% transparent. Our next move is to select the gross margin percentage series and turn it into a secondary axis. Once we have done that, we can change its chart type to line. Okay, good. We could also smooth the gross margin percentage series line. The smoothing exercise is purely a matter of preference. Therefore, if you would rather go ahead without it, it's okay. Our chart still needs its horizontal axis titles, which are references to the financial periods we are looking at, FY16, FY17, and FY18. Let's add a title to our chart. I'll select the box Chart Title and choose to add a title which will be above the chart. After that, we have to give the title the necessary formatting and position. I'll copy the title of the chart on the right, FY16 to FY18, Revenue and Gross Margin Percentage. The font for it is Arial, and the font size is 9. We can also change the color of the title text to dark blue in order to make it more distinctive. The last detail that we must address in order to render the two charts completely the same is Axis Scale. I'll adjust that by going to the Axis Options menu and manually selecting the scale settings that I prefer. As you can see, you can select the minimum scale. That is where your chart will start. The maximum scale, that is where your chart will end, and the major unit. That is how much the space between different fractions of the scale will be. Adjusting the scale to be the same as the one of the other chart on the right should make the two charts identical. We will learn how to create a bridge chart. Bridge charts, often called waterfall charts, are very popular graphic tools that are frequently used in corporate presentations. A bridge chart normally shows how an initial value is affected by a series of intermediate positive or negative values. In earlier versions of Excel, bridge charts were not native to Microsoft Excel, which complicated their creation. People were passing templates. Some large firms had their own add-ins, allowing the creation of bridge charts. Today, the situation is much simpler because bridge charts have been added to Excel, and it is quite easy to create such a visualization. In the sheet Bridge Chart, we have a ready-made bridge chart, which will be the final output of our exercise. Let's take a look at it. The chart shows us 2017 EBITDA, and then, through intermediate steps, change in revenues, change in variable costs, and change in OPEX, it explains what influenced the different value for EBITDA in 2018. Revenues were higher by 0.3 million in 2018. Variable costs were higher in 2018 as well, which has a negative impact of 0.2 million on EBITDA. Operating expenses were lower though, as we can see a positive impact of plus 1 million. And we arrive at the 2018 value for EBITDA, 5.3 million. Now that we have seen what it represents and have a better idea about the logic behind it, let's build our bridge chart from scratch. First of all, we need our starting value, the intermediate values which drive the change, and the final value. In our case, these will be the same as in the chart which is ready. EBITDA for FY17, change in revenues, change in variable costs, change in OPEX, and EBITDA for FY18. EBITDA for FY17 is something we have. We can just go to the P&L sheet and link. Okay. The change for each of the intermediate steps is something that we need to calculate. For each of the steps, we have to go to the P&L sheet and take the difference between the value for 2018 and the value for 2017. Please note that the operation is done in the same way for revenues and costs. I'll go ahead and take the difference for each of the intermediate steps. After we have carried out this operation for the 3 intermediate steps, the data source for our bridge chart is ready. I'll link to the value of EBITDA for 2018 in order to facilitate the check. It is always good to make a check and see whether the sum of the value, which we have after considering the initial value and all the intermediate steps, is the same as the final one. Our check shows that the numbers are okay, and we can go ahead. It is super easy to create bridge charts in Excel. All you need to do is select the data, open the Insert tab, and create a waterfall chart. However, what we have here isn't a ready bridge chart. In order to completely obtain the desired form of the chart, I'll need to select its last value, 5.3. Right-click on it and set it as the total. See? Very well. When you set the last values as the total, please make sure that it is the only column you've selected, because with the first click, we select the entire series. Now, let's change the colors of positive and negative changes. Generally speaking, it is a good practice to have the same color for all of the positive changes, and another for all of the negative changes. Here, I'll pick green for the positive changes, and bright red for the negative. I'll take another second to color our 2 endpoints in dark blue. Also, given that we used consistent coloring for increases and decreases, we can delete the legend that we have above the bridge chart. Now let's do all of our familiar formatting, which we saw in the examples before. Let's remove the fill and the border color of the chart. Let's select it and change its font to Arial and 8. This is better, right? Let's give a half-page format to our chart by modifying its dimensions in a way that becomes similar to the example chart. I'll need to reduce the height and enlarge its width. Let's add a title to our axis in order to clarify the currency and the amounts that we are using. We have to go to Chart Tools, select Axis Titles, and pick a title option for our vertical axis. Okay, let's type the unit of measurement within it. We have euro in millions. Perfect. The final thing that we are missing is the chart title. Let's go again to the Chart Tools menu. There we can select a chart title, which will be above our bridge chart. Let's use the same title as the chart that's ready. EBITDA Bridge FY17 to FY18. I'll apply the same formatting for titles that we saw for the other charts in this case study. Font Arial, font size 9, the text color is dark blue. This is how a bridge chart is created and formatted. I hope the video was useful.